Man, where do I start? I watched the draft like a lot of y'all, and I ain't never seen nothing like this. I ain't never seen somebody ranked 20th overall in a draft and then slide all the way to 144 with no criminal record, no background, no nothing. You know? So what that showed me was this draft wasn't about football. This was about control, freedom, and who has the right to move boldly. I'm gonna break it all the way down. Yeah, let's get into it. Tripping. Tripping with Theo Bowl.
Come on, Dre.
Hey, what's going on, y'all? And welcome to another episode of Tripping with Theo Bold. I'm your host, Andre Theo Bold. Welcome to the show. Glad you guys could tune in. You know, AT is where it's at on most forms of social media. So make sure you follow me. And tell a friend to tell a friend. Do all that fun internet stuff like the old people say. So we gonna go ahead and get right on into it, man. First and foremost, I want to say, man, shout out to my new haters, man. I put a video out about 2 weeks ago. It got a couple thousand views, nothing major, But man, the hate comments started coming in. Oh man, at first it was like weird, but I was like, man, you know what? I want to say thank you to all the haters out there, man, that came to my page to drop some hate. Like I even had one viewer write a 4 to 5 page dissertation about why I was wrong in my comment section. And instead of him or her, I don't know who, if it was him or her, but instead of that person just taking that energy and creating their own podcast or putting it into some social media medium, they decided to give it to me in my page. So I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for all the hate and stuff I've been getting in my comments. As a matter of fact, you guys have inspired me. You guys have really inspired me. I'm going to create a Hater of the Year award. Don't know the criteria yet, but stay on the lookout, because you could win a commemorative Tripping with Theo Bold edition of some award. I don't know what it's going to be yet, but it's coming. Okay. Or we're going to, yeah. Anyways, also real quick, man, shout out to my comic bro, Jeff Horst, real funny comedian. We shoot random fandom. Make sure you guys go to Four of Hearts on the Four of Hearts YouTube page, random fandom. We talk comic book nerd stuff. Jeff Horst at Jeff Horst for everything on all socials. Go check him out. So in this episode, we're going to talk about the Slide of Shedeur, right? You guys, I know you guys heard about the shock heard around the world about Shedeur sliding all the way to the 5th round. And that's what we're going to talk about. This just ain't about football. This is about control, freedom, and who's allowed to move boldly and who's not. Let's go ahead and get into it. So here we go. So the way the NFL draft was set up, it looked like only like 3 or 4 teams needed Shedeur, but there are a lot of teams I think that could have used Shedeur. One team in particular is the Detroit Lions, right? And here's why, right? I like Jared Goff. I want to see him win. I want to see him succeed. I felt like you always want to root for the underdog. You always want to root for him, because of the whole Stafford trade or whatever. But that Commanders playoff game showed me a lot about Jared Goff. And I think we're seeing the ceiling of Jared Goff, Like when I saw Jared Goff playing that playoff game versus the Commanders, I had PTSD, or I had flashbacks of post Super Bowl 25 Jim Kelly. Let's talk about it, right? I'm a diehard Bills fan, as you guys know, and post Super Bowl 25 Jim Kelly was not the same as pre Super Bowl 25 Jim Kelly. Like all the way up through Super Bowl 25, Jim Kelly was that dude, man. He was carving up defenses, moving the ball at will. Then after teams, I guess, got used to him, that ball started coming out a little too quick. And it kind of like every time after Super Bowl 25, and this is no shade to Jim Kelly, you know what I'm saying? But after Super Bowl 25, every time Jim Kelly dropped back, man, my heart would just drop because I felt like he was gambling back there a lot of times. He was just throwing it, you know? And I feel like when you look at the body language of Jim Kelly and Jared Goff, it's like I'm seeing similarities. And to me, you get a Shedeur Sanders as an insurance policy, you know, because he can sit for 2 years and learn in that system, and then not just learn in that system, but then he has weapons around him, you know, and then you drop in Shedeur with that confidence and that swag. They may be they may be instant Super Bowl winners if that happens, but you know, that's neither here nor there. That's not how the draft played out. But here's the thing, man. Shedeur was ranked as a top 20 player in the draft, and he fell all the way to pick 144, you know? And to me, that was unjustified, you know? Like, I'm not saying Shedeur should have been a first round pick, but he damn sure shouldn't have been picked in the 5th round where he was. You know, and here's the other thing, right? Is you had players in the past that had rap sheets and questionable backgrounds, you know, and they were willing to take a shot on, like, the league was more willing to take a shot on someone that had a troubled past or had a record or history of getting in trouble, and versus someone that just comes out more confident than usual, you know. And to me, I thought that was very interesting, you know. So when I was watching the draft, I was like, I'm not gonna front. The main reason why I watched the draft this year was because I wanted to see where Shedeur was gonna go. You know, I feel like, you know, with college football, I tuned in more than I normally have, you know. And I feel like, you know, when I was watching the draft, I knew he wasn't gonna go. I was pretty confident he wasn't gonna go first round. But then after that, when he kept sliding, you know, I'm sitting there like, so first I went from shock to anger, then I went to being a little sad, and then I was like, yeah, at the end of the day, he good, right? And that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about privilege, you know. Um, so one thing I want to touch on right quick is the NFL is using a lot of coded language. You know, they're using a lot of coded language, right? Like, they're saying that Shedeur was unprepared, you know. And when I asked what unprepared means, I'm getting a lot of snapback from a lot of people, you know. They're like, oh, you know damn well what he means. I'm like, no, I don't. You know, to me, it's funny how when players have a troubled past, they're so quick to bring up the rap sheets. You know, they're so quick to bring up all the cases, all the court cases. Oh, this person knocked this chick out. Here's the proof. Here's the video, you know, or this person, you know, was caught smoking weed on camera and thought it was a joke. And boom, we got the video for this. We got the video for that. You know, it's funny how they got all this proof whenever, you know, players do bad or are in trouble with the law, but yet they'll still pick them, right? They'll let them slide a pick or two down, or they'll let them slide a round or two, you know, and they'll still justify picking them in a respectful pick order. But when it came to Shedeur with the unprepared, there was no tangible proof. It was just he say, she say. You know, that's all we heard, right? Like, you have a lot of NFL execs who are bitches, in my opinion, because if you're gonna say something, stand on it, state your name, state your case, and come with your proof. But it's all this whispering and shit. It's all this, hey, man, you know, I spoke to an NFL executive that said that when he was asked to come with a playbook, he came unprepared. Yeah, he came unprepared. Okay, what does that mean? Oh, you know damn well what that means. Really? Okay, interesting. But anyways, I want to kind of go down memory lane a little bit. You know, I kind of want to go down memory lane a little bit Um, got to bring in race. I'm taking it there. If you don't like it, turn past the channel. You know, watch another video, right? But we gonna talk. We gonna talk real today. Damn it. So collectively speaking, right? This is my experience, but typically, I'm not saying for all, but collectively speaking, um, black kids, in my opinion, are raised on fear and compliance, right? When I was growing up, just the authorities around me, it was always, hey, don't touch that. Put that back. Why you going over there? You don't need to be over there. Come here. Sit here. Stay there. Don't go there. Don't do this. Don't touch this. Why you over there? We can't afford that. You can't afford that. We ain't getting that, right? It was very restrictive language, you know? But then, collectively speaking, I saw other like non-black kids growing up, and the language was looser. It was, oh, that's Jimmy. Oh, Jimmy's fine over there. He's he's just exploring his surroundings. He's just curious. That's all it is. There's nothing wrong with being curious. Oh, he's not harming anybody. He's just playing with it. And the reason I bring this up is because this transitions into the workplace, into later on in life, excuse me. Um, this transitions into like adult behavior, So for example, it wasn't until a few years ago, right? It wasn't until a few years ago where I got comfortable enough speaking without raising my hand in meetings. Yeah, like 1 or 2 years ago, if I'm in a meeting, I'd be doing this shit. And all my middle-aged white counterparts, they would just keep talking, cutting each other off, and I'm trying to make a point and I'm putting my hand up. And they just ignoring me, the whole time, And I remember one time I jumped in. I said, okay, well, I'm going to do like they do. And I jumped in and they weren't used to me jumping in. And they were like, who told you could speak? I'm like, well, I had my hand raised the whole time. I mean, what else y'all like? How am I supposed to contribute? You know what I mean? So, I bring that up because it shows how in society, black people are supposed to be tamed, and I don't like that term. It's like people are people. We should all be able to walk this earth free and explore this beautiful world together. You know what I mean? So Shedeur's confidence looks foreign to a lot of people because they're not used to seeing that, right? Like a lot of black people as a whole, we're taught to get in our place, go along to get along, in order to have a seat at the table, you gotta, hey man, we just gotta bow our head and scratch, like, you know what I'm saying? And they're not used to seeing someone like Shedeur come in with a father who had a legacy, who was the greatest cornerback to ever play the game, and then take that and build a platform for his son to stand on to build his legacy, right? Like the world isn't used to seeing that, So, anywho, let me go ahead and just, go back down memory lane a little bit, So let me get into the graham cracker gospel, Like what I've learned as a kid growing up, like what I've learned is it wasn't enough to just comply being black. It wasn't just enough to comply. I had to always show, one, I had to comply. And then two, I had to show the authority that I understood that they were the authority, right? So for example, when I was in middle school, grade school, you guys remember middle school, grade school, if you wanted to get a snack, and a lot of times a snack was a graham cracker or some graham crackers. If you wanted to get graham crackers, you had to be quiet, right? The teacher would be like, hey guys, be quiet. It's snack time, and hey guys, you're not getting a graham cracker until you're quiet. I'm going to wait, So I would be quiet. And then in addition to that, the teacher would say, they would do this shit. Remember this shit? You have to put your finger on your mouth to show them, to let them know that you understand that they're in charge. Like it wasn't enough just to be quiet, you know? And I used to get picked on sometimes, you know? Like there'd be some teachers, here it is, I'm sitting here looking at the teacher telling everyone to be quiet. I'm quiet, my mouth is shut, I'm not saying shit, you know? And everyone else is talking, not coming to order. And the teacher would look at me and take the frustration of the other students out on me because she couldn't get them to be quiet, right? So she look at me and do this shit. Put your finger on your lip. I'm like, bitch. So I didn't say it, but in my mind, I'm thinking to myself, bitch, you want everyone to be quiet. I'm quiet, but it's not enough for me just to be quiet. You want me to put my finger on my mouth to show you that I understand that you in charge when you can't get the rest of the fucking room under control. You know what I'm saying? So I had to do this shit. And the whole time I'm doing this, I'm like, what the fuck am I doing that shit for? You know what I'm saying? So I kind of thought about, you know, if I could if I could go back to that time period, and if I had the privilege, if I had my own graham crackers, man, you know what I would have done? I would have looked at that bitch when she's doing this shit. I know I want to get graham crackers, but you know what? I got my own graham crackers, bitch. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't say that, but I'll be thinking that. And I'll put my graham crackers, I'll eat the graham crackers right in front of the teacher's face. And then she would get mad. Why are you eating graham crackers or whatever, right? And I wouldn't say anything because you want me to be quiet. I'm being quiet. But I got what I want because I already have what I need. So what would happen in that situation is I would probably get sent to the office and the principal or whoever would be like, well, what did he do wrong or whatever? And she's like, oh, he's being, oh, like they would have to make up something special for me because I got what I already need. Like I don't need what she has to provide, you know? So at the end of the day, I'm not trying to be a rebel for the sake of being a rebel. But if I'm doing what you want me to do, but you want to beat me into submission for your own selfish gain or for whatever reason, it's like, nah, at some point, at some point, you have to use your privilege to clap back, you know? So this gets into the whole employee versus contributor mindset, you know? In the draft, right, Shedeur showed up from what I saw, right? At the end of the day, we don't know what happened. We just know what we've been told and we know what we were been allowed to see. But Shedeur showed up as a contributor versus showing up as an employee, you know? Like he basically was like, hey, you know, what does success look like for me? How do you guys envision me being successful within your organization? You know? And to me, there's nothing wrong with that. Right? There's nothing wrong with that. Like when I interview with companies, you know, one thing I always do at the end of the interview, I always interview my employees, right? The one thing I always do is I always interview my my potential employers. And the one question I always ask is at the end is if the candidate or what would the successful candidate be doing 1 day or 1 week after being hired, 1 month after being hired, a year after being hired, 5 years after being hired? Walk me through what success for that candidate would look like. If they sit there and they fumble around and they say, oh, it's neither here nor there. And, you know, everyone's different and they ain't thought about that shit. So at that moment in time, I know it's a money grab. I'm like, okay, cool. If I get hired, all I got to do is do what the fuck you want me to do. And let me get this check and get the fuck out of here. Right. So Shedeur basically, he showed up like, look, right. We have to get out of this employee mindset, man. I mean, look, there's nothing wrong with being an employee. Let me take that back. There's nothing wrong with being an employee. We need employees to work for employers. But on the flip side, you know, if you want to be a boss or if you want to do something more than being a contributor, that's okay. You just have to learn how to come to the table. Like we have to learn how to we have to learn other options exist for us in life, you know, and that to me is what the issue is surrounding, you know, Shedeur, right? Is he has options. He doesn't have to do none of this shit. You know, he can show up as an employee, as a contributor. He can show up because he has the backing and the resources for that. And I think that's what's pissing a lot of people off. And here's the thing too, right? I know, like, I'm able to understand that I don't come from Deion Sanders stock, right? I'm not saying that he's a better person than me, but I know that the work he put in a certain area, you know, elevated his sons to where they can step off of that and go to a higher, like they're at a different vantage point, you know? And when Deion started, Deion didn't have parents that he stepped off, right? Deion built his legacy off of confidence and hard work, you know? And now his sons can step off of that and they can actually build to that. That should be the goal, you know? So instead of resenting, like I see a lot of black folks, man, like they're not used to seeing somebody with that level of confidence and money and swagger navigate through society. So a lot of black people are kind of like, they're kind of turning in, it's kind of that old Negro mentality, you know, oh man, they not humble. He needs to be humble. Like, who does he think he is? It's like he Deion fucking Sanders, man. This dude earned this shit. Everybody should be striving for that. Everybody should be striving to be great at something to where they can build a legacy off of and then hand it down to their offspring. If not, then what is you doing? You know what I mean? So I want to touch on this right quick, man. People are getting on Deion and saying that, oh, he did it to himself. He did it to his son. He did it like, look, all Deion said was before the draft was, my son ain't going, like he's not going to just any old team. There's some teams that he's not going to. But if you notice, he didn't specify which teams exactly. Right? And I think he did that on purpose. He just said, look, I got pride in my son. My son has pride in himself. We're not just trying to go to any old random team. We want to be courted. Like we have a resume. We have a legacy that we can bring, right? We bring eyeballs to the organization. We can bring revenue to the company. Like we come with weight. So he's not just going to go to any old team. And that's all he was saying, right? But if you look at Archie Manning, right? Let's talk about Archie Manning right quick, right? Right? And this is no shade to Archie Manning and the Mannings, but Archie Manning is in the Hall of Fame, but he ain't win no Super Bowl. He ain't no champion, right? And I could stand to be corrected, you know, in the comment section, let me know. But when Eli got drafted, I don't think Peyton won a Super Bowl yet, right? So Archie came out and specifically said his son is not going to the San Diego Chargers. That was worse than what Deion did. But no one clapped back at Archie for that. But then Deion gets clapped at. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, why is that? Why do you think that is? Put it in the comment section. Let me know. So to me, like I said, that's not what Prime did wasn't entitlement. It was discernment, you know? I think he was putting out the feel for what his son was worth, right? And everyone has a right to know what their worth is. We should all be curious as to what our worth is. I want to talk about, and I got to pull Aaron Rodgers in on this, right? Like people got more smoke for Shedeur than they do Aaron Rodgers, right? Aaron Rodgers won 1 Super Bowl and he's been to 2, and he had a couple seasons where he was on pace to be competing with, you know, he was basically supposed to be what Tom Brady is today, but he's not, right? And he's still trying to play. But if you notice with Aaron Rodgers, you don't see a whole lot of receivers that he played with coming to bat for him. You don't see a lot of that. You know what I'm saying? And the past 2 seasons, he been stinking it up. Let's just call a spade a spade. He been stinking it up on the Jets. But yet he gets a primetime spot on the Pat McAfee show to talk shit about, or to talk his shit because of his past history. You know? That's privilege, right? But he ain't done shit. He ain't proved nothing. So to me, it's like people who have all this smoke for Shedeur, but nothing for Aaron Rodgers, to me is very telling, you know? Shedeur is composed, he's hardworking, and he's confident. Like, that's what you should want in a quarterback, in my opinion. You know? So from my vantage point, from what I see, the system protects familiar privilege and punishes new black confidence. You know, there's not, to me, it's like they're afraid to see another version of Muhammad Ali, you know, and Muhammad Ali changed like a lot of shit for a lot of people. You know what I mean? Also, I want to give a shout out to Malik Neighbors, man. Malik Neighbors was on a podcast I watched a little while ago, and he was praising Shedeur, and he was like, yo, he shouldn't have slid the way he slid, you know, because he was, if you don't know, Malik Neighbors is a receiver for the New York Giants, and they were on Instagram playing catch in New York as kind of a teaser for what's to come, you know, and you could tell Malik Neighbors was like, yo, I was looking forward to playing with Shedeur, you know, but shout out to Malik for standing on business, right? Because I thought he was going to come out and do that coon tap dance, you know, and have to pick a side. But he's like, nah, Shedeur didn't do nothing wrong. He should have got picked way higher than what he got picked, you know? So when you look at the press conferences of the GM for the Browns and like Mike Tomlin, you know, those are black men that to me had to eat it, you know? And what it kind of looked like is, I'm not saying this is what it is, I'm just saying what it looked like for me. This is my opinion. It kind of looked like the owners told them, hey, go clean it up for Massa. Go clean this up for Massa, you know? Because when you look at their body language, it looked like they wanted to draft Shedeur higher, but they were told not to. That's just my opinion. That's just my take. What are your thoughts in the comments? You let me know. At the end of the day, here's what it is, right? Let me just go ahead and land my plane on this, right? At the end of the day, Shiloh and Shedeur don't need football. And that's a beautiful thing. They do not need this shit. They already got millions. They got millions from the NIL deals in college. They got money from their father. They don't need none of this shit. But they're out there playing because they want to play and because they love the game. So when you have that kind of weight, you can move different. You can go up to an organization and be like, hey, look, what does success look like for you guys? And what does success look like for me? You know, how do you guys, you know? And if they come at you with some foolishness, you can be like, okay, whatever, you know? Okay. Like, you can look like to me, it just like, yeah, to me, it's like when you have resources already, it's a blessing to not have to do anything, right? Like, a lot of us are envious, I think, because we have to get up and do a job. We have to go here to get this check. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't have a legacy where we can stand up on something and then have resources to where we can create our own ship and sail through this whole universe doing whatever we want to do, you know? So, that's pretty much all I got to say on that, man. You know, to me, the Cleveland Browns don't deserve Shedeur, man. I mean, they don't, you know. They talk like I hear people talking all this humble talk and, oh, he needs to be humble. No, the Browns need to be fucking humble, man, because they ain't ever won shit. I know we got some Cleveland Browns fans out there. No disrespect to you guys, man, but your franchise ain't did shit. It's like, how you been around this long and ain't never been to the Super Bowl, man? You know? So, in conclusion, maybe a Sanders circus is what is needed for that shit show. I can't even say shit show. For that shit show that they have going on in Cleveland. Maybe that's what's needed. You know? So anywho, man, that's all I got. AT is where it's at on most forms of social media. Make sure you follow me. And with all that being said, I'm out of here, folks. Peace. Yep. Tripping with Theo Bold.
Let's go.
Caliente.
Tripping. Yep. Tripping. Tripping. Tripping with Theo Bold.
Tripping with Theo Bold.